Welcome back, guys. The second to the last set review for Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Today, Yanks and I are going to be going over the colorless cards on a scale of 1 to 5. If you guys missed our previous ones, all of the colors and introduction, you guys can go ahead and check that out on the YouTube channel. They're all posted. And if you guys would like to come back tomorrow and check out the final video, which is going to be multicolor, we would love to have you guys. And make sure you guys leave us comments down below. Let us know what cards you thought we got right or wrong. We'd love to hear from you. All right. Yanks, we got our first artifact. Are you excited for Kamigawa artifacts?
We've seen a lot in the colors themselves, so there's a lot more artifacts than usual, and colors seem to care about artifacts, so hopefully they're good.
All right, so we have an Artificer, a 1/3 for 2 mana. Pretty on rate, no color requirements. It taps and adds a colorless. This mana can only be activated to cast an artifact spell. I don't think there's going to be a ton of difficulty finding spells that this can help cast, so this seems okay.
Yeah, you can also use this mana to activate an ability, so that includes ninjutsu and channel. Are both keywords in this set that this will help fuel. So between that and your vehicles and equipment abilities and casting artifacts, there's going to be a lot you can use this for.
Yeah, this seems great. And it fits really well into like the vehicle deck, but it also fits really well into like the Reforge mechanic. It fits really well in like the channel deck, ninjutsu deck. It's got a home anywhere. What do you think in score-wise?
It's ramp, but restrictive ramp, even if you can't just cast a creature with this card, unless it's an artifact. So I give it like a 2/5.
Yay! Same boat. Okay, moving on. 1 mana equipment. For 2 mana, it's a 1 mana equipment, equip 1 for 2 mana. Until end of turn, equip creature gets +X+O, where X is the number of times this ability was resolved this turn. So for 2 mana, it gets +1+O?
Yep.
And for 4 mana, it gets +2+O?
Well, it gets +3+O because it's already gotten +1, and then it gets another +2.
Okay, I thought... Till end of turn, equip creature gets this. Got it. Okay, it's checking out. For some reason, I was thinking like its power becomes X.
Yeah.
For whatever. So I thought it was like readjusting. Okay, this makes a little bit more sense. It's still kind of iffy. It's pretty low to equip, but I don't know if I like dumping my mana into it every turn. Thoughts?
No, I think there's a higher bar for straight up equipment in this set, given the reconfigure ability. And the fact that there's just going to be a lot of other places to dump your mana to get the same effect that the equipment does. And I don't think this clears that bar.
Agreed. I don't like this card. I could see a world where there's like some really like late game matchup and you board this in to put on your flyer because, you guys both like ran to time or whatever. But nah, this is not something I want to be playing, I don't think. I'm going to give it a 1.
Yeah, I'll give it a 1/5, because if you're in the modified deck, you could play this if you just need a cheap way to modify something.
I'm hoping we find better, but yeah, it's possible with the cheap equip costs. Still a modified 1 for a whole card? There's gotta be something better. Brute Suit, 3 mana vehicle. It's a 4/3 with vigilance and only crew 1. I like that.
All I want to say with this card is Brute Suit Riot.
I don't get the reference, but okay.
There's a old song called Zoot Suit Riot.
I do remember that. I didn't make the connection when you said it. 3 mana for a 4/3 Vigilant that has only crew 1. Feels like exactly what I want to be doing. It plays nicely with the vehicle formats that, crew cheaply, make 1/1s. There's the Lord that brings back equipment. This trades really well. So I like this card. This feels fine to me.
Yeah, anytime you get a cheap crew vehicle where the stats are above rate, or at least at rate, I'm happy. This is like a 3.
Yeah, I also have it at a 3. All right. We have Circuit Mender, a 2/3 for 3 mana on rate. It's an insect. Whenever Mender enters the battlefield, gain 2 life. Whenever Mender leaves the battlefield, draw a card. Hey, now you're speaking my language. It's an on-rate, non-color specific. Gain life, whatever, usually isn't super relevant and limited. We didn't see any synergies for gain life mechanics either. So, nice bonus. But then the draw card at the end of an already, at rate creature. This is a 2/5 for me, possibly a 3.
Yeah, I think it starts at a 2/5 with some upside, especially if you're in that red-black sacrifice deck.
Even other cards like the white uncommon lord that brings your artifacts back. There's so many things that actually interact with the artifacts in the graveyard that makes me really like this.
Also, it leaves the battlefield, not dies. So if you can blink this or flicker it,
or ninjutsu it,
Yep.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna give this a 3. That's a lot of synergy.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, we have a construct, a 2/1 for 2. A lot of those in the format. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard. If you do, you may play that card this turn.
Yeah, tell me, give all your cards madness without using the madness keyword.
Yeah, the issue is that I didn't see a ton of discard support.
Well, where it does come into play is channel. Channel is a discard ability.
Oh, yes. Good call, good call, good call. I was thinking of cards that say, like, discard a card, give +1/+1 or whatever. Yeah, that's the classic way I think of it. Like, discard a card, give this indestructible, whatever. Yeah, I like that. Channel is nice. So this is a 1 deck combo, basically. It goes into 1 deck or half decks. Like, if you have, like, one of the channel colors. How many channel cards would you say this needs to be above a 2/1 for 2? Because that's kind of a bad rate.
I don't know, 5 maybe.
All right.
I don't love 2/1s for 2, but at least it's colorless, which makes it a little bit better in terms of casting it. And there are a couple other random discard things in the set, not a lot, but
yeah. I've been pretty happy with the 2-drops in the set that I don't think I would run this for no reason.
I don't think so either. But I think as long as I have a few channel cards, I'll take it. A few good channel cards.
Now, there are other synergies that say, like, when an artifact leaves the battlefield, make a 1/1, or whatever the case may be. That also helps, but I think we need, like, I think this is a 1/5 on its own, and then it needs some synergies, and then it becomes, with 5 channel things, it then becomes like a 2/5, which is a pretty drastic shift.
Yeah, I guess the other one would be if you just have a whole bunch of things that care, like you said, if you're in black-white and you just need a critical mass of artifacts to support things, or, this is not a terrible thing to put in your deck.
Certainly. And sometimes those 1/5s kind of do make that cut.
Yep.
All right, we got a 4-mana 2/4. Whenever it enters the battlefield, for each kind of counter on target permanent, put another counter of that kind on and remove 1 from it. Another counter of that kind, or remove 1 from it. Okay, so it can remove your opponent's stuff, and you can make +1/+1 counters. There was also the weird, like, the green rare, the quad green thing that gave you vigilance and a thing, so that you could have some vigilance counters there. There's also multiple cards that say give indestructible, and then remove a destructible counter, so you could double up on that. There was the death touch counter for the ninja, and there was the menace counter on the black card. So there's probably, like, in addition to the +1/+1 counter, which is all over the format, probably 5 other relevant counters. What do you think, Yanks? 6?
I think the real relevant counter here is Saga lore counters. That you can both accelerate it for a turn or retreat it by a turn if you want to trigger one of the abilities again.
Yeah. I also don't hate this to just remove counters too. Remove +1/+1 counters. If this comes in and does that, not the end of the world.
No, +1/+1 counters are probably the most relevant. I think Saga lore counters would be after that.
There was that, like, get death touch, remove a death touch counter, kill an artifact or something. Like, that's pretty spicy.
Yeah, there were a couple. There was, like, one of those cards in a couple of colors.
In every color, I think, ish, whatever. That said, I don't know that I care all that much to speed up my sagas. All that much.
Yeah,
it's fine.
It just depends on which ones you've got.
This feels very too playable to me.
Yeah. I don't think it's great, but there are some decks that are going to want it.
Eater of Virtue, a 1-mana, 1-equip legendary equipment. This is probably going to be good. Whenever equipped creature dies, exile it. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 as long as a card exiled with Virtue Eater as long as a card exiled with Virtue Eater has flying, equipped creature has flying. Okay, I see. So as things die, it gives its abilities to other things. Okay.
Yeah, so on its face, all it is +2/+0.
Yeah. You have to have a lot of keywords for this to like have a ceiling.
Yeah.
But that said, it's still a 1 mana that modifies for 1 and gives +2/+0, which seems great. It's gonna be very good for your creature decks.
Yeah, I'm completely blanking on the card I'm trying to think of. That's all it did was +2/+0, and it was a limited house. Some form of some axe, and I can't remember what it is. And all it was 1 mana, and then 1 mana to equip +2/+0, and it was absurdly powerful.
It's kind of amazing to see, though, right? Like
Bone Splinter, thank you.
Yeah, Bone Splinter is good, but then you also have the same ability on something that's equipped 3, and it's fucking trash. So that equip cost is super important. That said, I don't think it's going to be super hard to get flying. I don't think it'll be super hard to get... There wasn't a ton of Death Touchers, there wasn't a ton of Hexproof, there wasn't a ton of Indestructible, but like First Strike, maybe some? There was like a random white creature that had First Strike. There's the random Oros creature, I think, that First Striked as well. Like there's a few.
There's like a little bit of everything.
Yeah, oh, there's also like the red combat trick that gives First Strike, so it could still die and do the thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of Vigilance.
Ooh, yeah. All the tokens and stuff all had Vigilance, agreed. Yeah. This is probably very good. This is a 4? 3/5 maybe?
Yeah. It's a 4. Also, actually, what's kind of interesting, right, is that if you equip this onto something else that has an equipment on it, like the double striking one, you keep the double strike equipment, but this gets double. This also now has double strike
because the creature had it in the first place. Yeah.
No, I take it back. I'm wrong on that because it's not. It's as long as a card, and the card doesn't have it.
Yeah, because the creature itself was exiled, doesn't have it. Okay.
It did at the time, but the card doesn't have it, so I'm wrong on that. Ignore that.
Yeah, I think it's 4-ish.
Yeah, I think it's a 4.
The more creatures you have with creature types, obviously, the better it's going to be. All right, we have a Terrarium for 2 mana artifact. Enters the battlefield, and you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle. Yay, it fixes. It actually gets a different color than the ones that it provides, which is what we've been seeing. 2 mana, sacrifice it, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, activates it as a sorcery. It also changes their whatever. God damn it. Modifies. Ha! Take that. It also modifies, so it's a nice little bonus. It's a 1-for-1. It's nice and slow, but, you know, we're going to run these if we're playing splashy stuff. Yeah?
Yeah, if you want to splash, it's great. Nice. It's another one of those things that's kind of cheap and works well with sacrifice abilities as well.
Not every deck is going to want it, but it's just a 2.
Yep, it's a 2.
And it's an easy cut. High Speed Hoverbike, 2 mana, 2/2, Flash Flying. High Speed Hoverbike enters the battlefield, tapped. Tap up to 1 target creature and crew 1. All right, so yeah, I like it. It kind of doubles as like a tap your thing down in combat. It's flexible. It's pretty aggressive. Like, you know, playing this for 2 and then crewing for only 1 seems fine. What are you thinking, Yanks?
Yeah, this is really nice to, you know, flash in and end a turn to get multiple attackers through. You've now got a flyer that can probably get through, and you might have just opened the door for something else. Cheap costing vehicles plus cheap crew costs are always nice.
Yeah, I don't know that it helps you get more creatures in, because the crew kind of, I'm assuming, takes away a creature, so it's kind of a net, but it is an evasive creature. It's 2 mana with Flash, which is really good with Ninjutsu. Yeah, overall, I think this card is great, and in a pinch, it can save you buy you some time as well. Is this a 3?
Yeah, I've got it as a 3.
Great. Iron Apprentice, 1 mana for a 0/0, enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. When it dies, it had a counter on it. Put those counters on a target creature you control. Okay, so this is a sacrifice target. This is really nice if you have things that want to be sacrificing your artifacts, and then you could possibly recur them, which is very synergistic, but not out of the realm of reason for this set.
Yeah, good in a sacrifice deck, good in a modified deck, because it comes in as already modified itself.
And good in just any generic artifact deck.
Yeah.
You know, 2 of those uncommon white lords, and I'm in business with this card.
Yeah. No, it's low impact. but it's solid in all those.
That said, what are we giving this rating-wise? It seems like there's synergy all over the place for this card.
Yeah, I think it's a 2.5. It might be on the low end of 2.5 because it just is a very low impact card.
Yeah,
but it does a lot of little nice things with synergies.
Yeah, I have it at a 2.5 only because I agreed low impact, but it feels like there's so much synergy, it's hard to miss it all.
Yeah.
So it's going to get a nice little bump there. Oh, wow, it's teeny. I cannot even see those letters.
Mech Titan Core is a 2-mana vehicle. It's a 2/4 with crew 2, and you can pay 5 and exile Mech Titan Core and 4 other artifact creatures and/or vehicles you control. Create Mech Titan, a legendary 10/10 construct artifact creature with flying, vigilance, trample, lifelink, and haste that's all colors. When that token leaves the battlefield, return all cards exiled with Mech Titan Core except Mech Titan Core to the battlefield, tapped under their owner's control.
Okay, hear me out. We put the equipment onto this, and then we run it under a bus, make them like triple block it or whatever they want to do, and then that equipment then can suit up all the other mechs.
I mean, I'm hoping your 10/10 everything can't really get thrown under the bus.
Well, it could get like there's a hero's downfall in the format.
True.
But then everything, all the 5 things we sacked now have flying, first strike, trample, death touch, blah, 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 blah. Look, if you get to have fun, so do I, okay? Yeah, I think this is...
Actually, that doesn't even work.
Oh, because it's not in exile? Oh.
Well, because the token...
Yeah, I know, it's not in exile.
Token's not a card, yeah.
I guess I can't have any fun. Why do you poop on all the parties?
You gave me that name yesterday.
You are the pooper of parties.
I keep waiting it to show up as a Discord role.
Yeah, HD said pooper of parties. Yeah, I'm going to make this Discord role. Okay, it's official. Yanks is... I'm going to name your Pokemon in Arceus. I'm just going to name it Pooper of Parties. And yeah. All right, guys. It still is a crew 2 mana, 2/4. Fine. That's like a... What?
That's probably like a 2 to 2.5.
Yeah.
But the ability's actually... It's expensive and really wordy, but it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
You need to have 4 other things to sacrifice with it, but you don't... It's not like you're trading 5 for 1 and then you get blown out. If that thing dies, the only thing you actually lose is this.
Unfortunately, it's creatures or vehicles, which makes sense because it's like some big troned up thing. But I wish it could like sacrifice like treasures and some other stuff. It would be way more reasonable. But 5 things on board that are all artifact creature vehicles seems difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I think you want this in blue-white, mostly.
Yeah, blue-white and nothing else. In the average deck, I think it's like a 2/5?
Yeah. But, I mean, this is another, like, achievement, right?
Yo, yeah, I tend to smash
you gotta make the
this.
Mech.
Yeah. All right, we got Mirror Box, 3 mana for the legend rule does not apply to permanents you control. Each legendary creature you control gets +1/+1. Each non-token creature you control gets +1/+1 for each creature you control with the same name as that creature. Wow. That's a lot of stuff. This seems constructed playable. Like there's a couple of legendaries, but not a ton, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of text to say doesn't really do anything in limited.
Agreed. Moving on, we're going to give that a 1.
Yep.
All right, Network Terminal. 3 mana, tap, add a mana of any color, fixing. Colorless, pay 1, tap another untapped artifact you control, draw a card, then discard a card. Okay, it's kind of a cheap loot effect, but the tap requirement is kind of expensive. But it's also a mana rock early.
The Kami War is getting more and more castable.
Oi.
Can't even see me. I'm rubbing my hands together like a villain.
Why do you get to have all the fun? I mean, it's a mana rock. If you want to fix, if you want to ramp, it's fine. If you do the other thing, it's a bonus. It feels pretty good in the late game, but you got to get there, so make sure you don't get ran over. This feels like a 2. You'll know what deck wants this card.
Yep, I agree. I mean, we do have also to note this card, along with some other stuff we've seen, that Loots or Rummages all works with that 2-mana 2/1 for discarding.
Agreed. All right, Ninjas. Kunai? Kunai?
Sounds good to me.
Sure.
Probably Kunai.
Yeah, agreed. That's what I thought. 1 mana for Equip. Okay, we're seeing good things here. These are great for the alteration. Fuck. It's not coming this time.
Modified.
Why won't it stick?
I don't know, but I'm certain in the next Nerd Girl Out of Context video, the phrase alteration fuck is going to be in there.
All right, equipped creature has pay 1, tap, sacrifice this, deals 3 damage to any target. Huh. So it's 3 mana, deal 3 damage, tap a creature unnecessarily. That's kind of high. Normally it's like 1 mana, pay 3 for it's just an artifact, and then pay 3, deal 3. So it's like this is 1 less mana but requires you to tap.
Yeah, and it can be paid in phases, in installments, so you don't have to. I mean, the first one on those other ones does, but you have to pay 3 all at once. Here, you can pay 1, and then another 1 later.
I don't know that I want to.
I mean, I think this card is fine. It's just slightly overpriced removal.
I think we only want this in the modified deck.
I think I want this in any deck that doesn't have a lot of removal.
Yeah, I think I have to be kind of desperate. Like, these are always okay. It's very rare that they tend to be good. That said, I'm still, like, it's a 2, right? It's filler. It's a 23rd playable card if you need it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Colorless basically lightning bolt that makes you tap something.
If you have a thing to tap.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't mind this card. I don't like all these cards always, but I think this is cheap enough. All the costs are cheap enough that I'm okay with it.
Papercraft Decoy, 2 mana for a 2/1. There's so many. When it leaves the battlefield, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. Okay, it draws a card. I like that. But you have to pay 2? It's an artifact frog. You can sack artifacts. You can bring artifacts back. There's a lot of that. So yeah, this card is fine. It's like a 2/5, synergizes well with so many different things.
Yeah, and it works with can't think of the name of the card. The thing that gives frogs flying.
There's a card that gives frogs flying. I probably just ignored it because I thought it was not relevant.
It's the Tatsunari Toad Rider and target frog. Oh, not flying. Target frog you control can't be blocked except by creatures with flying and/or reach.
Okay, fair. Sorry guys, I'm losing my voice. This is the end of the set review. So sorry. I think this is like a 2/5. On its own, it doesn't do a lot. You have to do the thing with the mana to draw the card, which is kind of expensive. But the fact that there's so much return from graveyard stuff, and there's so many things that want to sack artifacts, and this feels like a premium option for that because it's replacing itself. So I think it's a 2/5.
Yeah, agreed.
Patchwork Automaton, we have a 2 mana 1/1 construct with Ward 2. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, put a +1/+1 counter on this. Great. You only need to cast 1 artifact for this to be on rate. It's colorless, so it's even slightly better. And then your second one, third one, it's awesome.
Yep, and it immediately on that first artifact becomes modified. Yeah, I like this card a lot. I think not every deck is going to want this because you do need a critical mass of artifacts, but most decks will play this, I think. Agreed.
Yeah, you're going to want this in an artifact deck, medium to heavy, nothing below that. But yeah, this feels good. There's so many artifacts and there's support for it in every color that I'm going to assume that, like, if you're interested in this, it's going to be pretty solid. That synergy is going to be there. What do you think? 3?
I think it's a 3.
Great. All right, Reckoner Bankbuster. We have a 2 mana 4/4 vehicle that crews for 3. It enters the battlefield with 3 charge counters on it. Pay 2, remove a charge counter from it, draw a card. Then, if there are no charge counters on this, create a treasure token and a 1/1 colorless pilot creature with it crews for 2 greater power. so it accrues itself. Interesting. That's a lot.
Yeah, this card's pretty great.
Yeah, it can just accrue right away if you want it to. And if you don't, you can just pay mana to draw 3 cards and make a bunch of stuff. That's a ton of value.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, right? It can't accrue itself until at least 3 turns later.
No, I didn't mean itself. I just meant you could just accrue it if you don't want to like waste the time. It's not like a 6-turn suspend.
Yeah.
Or 3-turn suspend. You could just play it and just dome them for 4 if you want.
Yeah, I mean, the downside to a lot of vehicles, right, is if you don't have the creatures to accrue them, they don't do anything. They just sit there. This at least does something else. I mean, you gotta pay mana for it, but it helps find the creatures to accrue it.
Agreed. Yeah, I like this card. This seems great. That's a lot of value. Yeah. Is this a 4?
I think it is.
Great.
I think you would play this card if it wasn't even a vehicle.
We're like back to agreeing on things. Fantastic. All right, we have a 3-mana 3/3 defender. When it enters the battlefield, target player mills 3 cards. Pay 3. Put target card from a graveyard onto the bottom of its owner's library. Okay, well, if the games go long, it's going to stop you from milling yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's
pretty
a nice
minimal
throwback.
Graveyard synergy.
It's a good throwback to Reito Lantern, which is an artifact that had just that ability on the bottom. It was cheaper, but yeah, I mean, I'm probably only playing this out of the board if I think I'm going to need it in a very, very long game.
Yeah, I mean, we saw some things that did some stuff with Graveyard, but I don't think it's enough to ever want this. This is a 2 if you don't have 2 drops. If a boardable card, a great blocker against Samurais, probably. Like, actually, it's 3 mana still, so it's it's still kind of expensive for a 3-mana 3/3 defender. So yeah, this is just like a 1/5.
Yeah, I guess if you have enough things that synergize with getting stuff back from the graveyard, the mill 3 is nice. So there's some world where you might play this, but yeah, otherwise, I'm just sticking this in the sideboard.
Absolutely. Trashbot, 3 mana for an 0/4 trample. It gets +1/+0 for each artifact and or enchantment card in your graveyard. It's going to be a 1 or a 2/5?
It's always an X4.
No. What?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant it was going to be a 1/4 or a 2/5.
No.
You said 1 or 2/5.
No, close.
Now I understand what you mean. Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, it would be pretty sweet in the like mono artifact deck. Kind of down to just bash people with 5/4s for 3 mana.
Yeah, it's a 3 mana that's actually reasonable late game a lot of times, which is nice.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Searchlight, 3 mana 1/1 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. So this is what I want in my ninjutsu deck.
Yeah, I think that's the only place I'm playing this. Yeah, I mean, I don't even really want to play this in artifact synergies, because if the other token was also an artifact, then maybe, but I could find something better to play then.
Well, there's a lot of things that want to sack artifacts and then bring them back. This is pretty reasonable for that.
Yeah, it's okay in that scenario.
It feels like a 2 to me with some ninjutsu upside. Again, I wasn't arguing that it's good, but I feel like this is going to make the cut in a week 3 slot.
Yeah, I could definitely see it.
Shrine, 5 mana 3/2. Why is this not a shrine? Okay.
Because it goes and gets your shrines.
Yeah. All right. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an aura or a shrine card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Okay. I mean, it's kind of expensive if you're in the shrine deck, which I don't think any of the shrines are quite powerful enough to be wanting to do all of the things, but this seems very overcosted to me.
Yeah, I think the only way I'm really playing this is if I have shrines and I'm in white or blue and have or black, I guess, with aura-based removal.
The only shrine I really like was the white one, I think. Like the white one that makes a 1/1 every turn.
Yeah,
I mean, the other ones were all playable, but the only one I care to overpay for to go get is probably that one.
I think you're right. Yeah, now that being said, on some of the other ones, if this can go get your second shrine.
Yes. So my point being, if I have 2 shrines, one of them being that one somewhere in the deck, then I think that's good.
Yeah. I think I want that or multiple aura-based removal spells.
Yeah, aura-based removal spells would be good. Okay. So maybe we can give it a little bit of a bump for the aura-based removal spells. And there's like the auras that like ETB, like the black one that kills a thing. That's pretty good.
Exactly. Especially because of that one in this set. It's not just pacifism and like a blue lockdown.
All right. I did get like a 2/5 then with some reasons to have it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a split card, but I think I can just write about where it's good.
Yeah, it's a split card that it's exceedingly obvious when you don't play it, which
All right, Surge Hacker Mech, a 5/5 for 4 mana with Crew 4 with Menace. Enters the battlefield, it deals damage equal to twice the number of vehicles you control to target creature, planeswalker, or opponent. So it just deals 2 when it ATBs?
At least, yeah.
So that seems fine. 4 mana for 5/5. Crew is a little on the pricey side, but with all the pilots, that's okay.
Yeah. I think I would not be happy at all with this card if it didn't have the ETB.
Agreed.
But now I've got a shock that comes with it.
Yeah, and it could just be a huge blowout if you're in Azorius.
Yeah. I mean, dealing 4 is not hard.
Yeah. Is this a 3/5? On its own with some upside?
I've got it as a 3 with some upside. Just because that crew cost is very high. Like, even those pilots can't crew it on its own. Other than the 2/1 for the actual pilot card in white.
Yeah, I can see that. It's got a lot of upside. Like, it's almost to the point where it's like a split. Like, in the crew deck with pilots, like, this is busted.
I mean, I think that still there are a lot of other vehicles I'd rather have than this.
It's a nice curve topper. If it comes in and kills a thing, kills a 4-power thing, and then it's going to be one of the bigger ones other than this idiot that we don't really want to, like, have to wait till turn 7 to cast. We have a 7 mana 7/7 Trample Haster, crew only 2. That's going to mess some people up.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being like, okay, we've stabilized, like, we've killed most of their creatures, they have a 2/2 on board, we should be fine, and they're just like, heh, play this, kill you. I'm going to cry.
I actually kind of like this card.
I'm going to die to this way more than I want to.
Yeah. Especially because it's a common.
If you're in green with mana dorks, holy shit. What's the rating here?
I think this is a 3. I actually really like this card.
I could dig it. I think that not every deck wants to commit to 7 drops, but a 1 of is okay, and if you're in green, then I think it's far more playable.
Yeah.
All right, we have a guide bot, 4 mana 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, pay 4, draw a card. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each modified creature. Wow. Okay, so it just costs 3 because it can like do a thing itself. So it's pay 3, draw a card, assuming you can keep that creature alive. And then it gets very cheap. In the modified decks, this could just be tap, draw a card. Seems great.
Yeah. Needs the support for it to be very good, but it's playable on its own.
Yeah, this is, again, another weird split rating card. Normally, we're not used to seeing so much synergy requirements for these artifacts, but that's what we're getting. So we're going to say this is like a 2/5 on its own with some pretty good upside.
Yeah, I like that.
Great. Walking Skyscraper, we have an 8 mana 8/8. This costs 1 less to cast for each modified creature you control. It has trample. And then it has hexproof as long as it is untapped. Okay, so this feels very good in green.
Yeah, green, blue-red with a bunch of artifacts. Oh no, I'm sorry, this is modified creatures, not
modified.
red-green for rule.
Yeah. And I think green, so red had more of the payoffs for modify, and green had all the enablers for the modify, which fits very well because you don't need green. Like green had +1/+1 counters and stuff that could just be good on their own. They don't need to trigger the modify, whereas I feel like the red needed some help to make the thing happen. So yeah, this is premium in Gruul, fine in any green deck, actually.
Yeah, and I think there's the occasional, even though it's the ability is for modified, there are some blue-red things that reduce artifact costs.
Yes, like
so
the little flyer.
There. Yeah, there's some possibility there, but yeah, I think it's mostly a deck. And it gives, that the hexproof, as long as it's untapped, is can do some nice tricks with the green combat trick that untaps.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember. I think there might have been something that untaps artifacts as well, but probably, not easy to have that combo happening. What are we thinking rating wise?
It's like a 2-5.
It's unplayable in any deck that doesn't modify. I was gonna give it a 2 too, but now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, is it though? I'm gonna split it. I'm gonna say it's a 1 or a 2-5.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because this is gonna be trash in 80% of decks.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to cast in those decks.
I
think you're right. I think you're right.
We're definitely happy to just run the common Colossus instead of it, right?
For sure.
Yeah. And this is, an uncommon and has no way of being in early and is just really, really bad. So this is a weird card that we were giving a split rating, but here we are. All right, guys, we're going to be moving on to the lands. There aren't a ton of them, so it shouldn't be nice and easy going in for this last video. So we have a full cycle here, the first one being the Bloodfell Caves. This enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. So these tapped lands are usually okay to run in moderation. I like to think that it depends on how important it is for you to hit your 4th and 5th land drop. If, your deck is super aggressive in the very beginning, then you can still afford to run some. If they're super late, you can afford to run more. But that mid-range is where you want to be very, very careful on how many of these you run. What would you say to that, Yanks?
Yeah, we've seen these sort of tap lands before. They're always nice additions to the deck, not something you're looking to take over quality playables, but in modern Magic drafting, we tend to have more playables than we need, so picking these up over those like 22nd, 21st, 23rd cards is pretty good.
Certainly. Now, if you're splashing a color that is on this land, great. I'm always running them. I don't care if they're tapped or whatever. That's fine. Now, if I'm exactly a 2-color deck and I'm running 9 and 8, and, I don't care quite as much, especially if I don't have a lot of double-colored casting costs, then I care a lot less to run these. And oftentimes I will cut them, or maybe just one even if I have multiples, because, again, I think that 4 and 5 land drop is super important. But if your deck is late game or if you're splashing, these are always good. I think this is like a 2-5 for these. I tend to pick them up over creatures that are in that 2 to 2-5 range, but often, play them very sparingly.
Yeah, we have seen some color-intensive mana costs so far with those like quad color spells. So these help your mana base be able to cast those type of cards as well.
I would agree. I think it's a little less important just because they are rare. And I did see a lower quantity of multicolor casting spells that weren't rare. Like in the last set, we had Bleed Dry and stuff like that was like pretty common, or literally at common, with double blacks and stuff. So a little less reasonable. All right, we have it for Rakdos. We also have it for Selesnya. Easy enough, 2 5s across the board. Here is a different one. Beju?
This one I'm never sure if it's supposed to be beside you or beside you, but it's one of the two.
Whatever. The one who endures. This legendary land doesn't come into play tap and taps for a forest. And then you can channel it, discard it, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land an opponent controls. That player may search their library for a land card with a basic land type, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle their library. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. Fine.
Yeah. I like Channel. I mean, this is not going to come up too much limited, but Channel on a legendary card is nice because it makes those extra copies not useless.
Not relevant here.
No, but I don't know, this effect is fine in this set because of how good artifacts enchantments seem to be. I don't love giving them a land, especially because it can help them fix a color they're missing, or it just ramps them. But
oftentimes you're playing this late enough. If it's a good removal target, like if you have this early, you're going to play it for your land drops, right? And then if you have it late, most likely they've gotten all the lands that they need anyway. So there's little downside to this, and I think I'm 100% running this in any green deck over a forest.
Yeah, I'm definitely playing it over a forest. I'm just trying to decide how good I think it is.
3-5. I think that the fact that there are so many creatures that are both artifacts and or enchantments makes this very reasonable that my land could ultimately kill a creature.
Yeah, I think I probably got it like a 3.
Awesome. We are going to take a quick intermission. I'll write it down. Welcome, Raiders. What a massive raid. Holy smokes. Jim Davis coming in with 400 viewers. Welcome, guys. We are currently working on our limited set review for Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. I know most of you guys get to hang out and watch Jim's version of the set review as well, which is kind of more of a hybrid. So not a ton of things you guys haven't heard, but I do hope you guys will stick around. These will be posted on YouTube if you have a good time. You guys are welcome to check those out, and they'll be in article form on Cool Stuff as well next week. So welcome, Raiders. Thank you guys again for popping in. And if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. We have lots of moderators that are here. On the call with me, I've got Yanks, one of my mods. We just kind of talk out the cards, give them a rating between 1 and 5 based on average limited gameplay. Have a good night, Jim. Thanks for hanging out and sharing your community with us. All right, so yeah, I think that this is like a 3. Does that sound on par with what you were thinking?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, awesome. So now we've got the Demir. Again, these are 2 5s. We're picking them up as we can. We're also speccing on these above 2 rated creatures, just in case, to open up some possibilities of splashing in later packs. All right, so now we have a second one, the second rare, the Seat of the Empire. Taps for planes. You can channel it for 3. Discard it. It deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. Not a ton of legendaries, don't care so much. It's 3 mana, destroy a creature in place of my land. This is just like those modals in a situation where it's going to be very powerful. And I think this is better than the green one.
Agreed. Yeah. No question there. The green one has a little more flexibility, but it comes at a steep cost.
This is really, really strong. You just get to replace your land with a potential removal spell. So I think this is easily a 3/5, probably a 4 for me.
Yeah, I will say deals 4 damage to sort of affect a target attacking or blocking creature. Has interesting interplay with ninjutsu, because you sometimes don't want to, if you target an unblocked thing, they can ninjutsu it in response, but also if you let them ninjutsu, you can then get the thing they send out. So
while also time walking them, oof.
Yeah,
so good.
It's a little bit of a you gotta watch your timing on that, but it can have huge payoffs.
Yeah, that's amazing. I really like this. That's going to be a big payoff too. It's like a 3/5 or 4, depending. We saw how powerful those land modals were. They kind of surprised everybody when they came out. So I imagine this is going to be something we're going to take pretty highly.
Yeah, I like it at a 3/5.
Hollow Jungle. We have the second or the next tap land here in Rule. Golgari. I always say the wrong one. I know the difference, but I always say the opposite. My brain does not work. We have a mech hanger. I'm assuming this is going to work for our vehicles. It taps for colorless, which is usually fine with vehicles. And you could tap, add 1 mana of any color, spend this only to cast a pilot or a vehicle spell. Fine. And then pay 3. Tap, target vehicle becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. This is a really nice backup plan to crew those additional vehicles.
Yeah, having it helps prevent you from being vehicle flooded, basically. You can pay effectively 4 mana, 3 plus tap this, and just ignore the crew for the turn. It seems solid, but you want to play it in a deck without steep enough vehicles and without steep colored mana requirements.
Yes, you're definitely not playing this in your splashing deck. So this basically fits in the Azorius deck, which we've seen has that strong vehicle. And the Azorius Lord is also vehicle related. So this is like a split card. We don't have a ton of these in our ratings. It's between a 1 and like a 3 or a 3/5. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a 1-3. I think there are going to be some decks actually that can play this that'll be kind of below that. They'll be like in the middle, kind of like a 2, but
yeah, it's going to depend on how many vehicles you have, of course.
Yeah. If you have like a few vehicles but a decent mana base, it's going to be in that range. But I think there are some decks that don't want it all, and some decks don't.
All right, we have our next channeling land, the Soaring City. You can channel it for 4 mana. They just keep going up in channel value here. And then discard Soaring City, return target artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker to its owner's hand. This ability costs 1 less to cast for each legendary you control. Not super relevant with the legendary stuff. So 4 mana bounce spell that can't be countered. Fine. I don't like this nearly as much as the white one.
No, but it's still fine. It's free.
Yep, it is free. I like it at a 3.
Yep, I'm with you there.
All right, Roadside. We have yet again another colorless land. You can also pay 2. You can sacrifice it, draw a card if you control an artifact, draw a card if you control an enchantment. Beautiful Orzhov card, but can be played in any 2-color deck if you have a reasonable amount of both. In fact, I think even if I was not in that theme, but I had like, let's say, 2 enchantments and a lot of artifacts, or vice versa, but not a super color dependent deck, I still might run this.
Yeah, and this is, just like off the top of my head with no math involved, I'm thinking like 6 combined. I'm probably putting this in my deck as long as the mana requirements of my deck aren't too crazy.
Now that said, if you're in Orzhov, this is great.
Yeah.
So it's almost a split requirement, but I don't think it's necessary to do that because, I think 2/5 with some upside is going to be pretty reasonable.
Yeah, and you just know you don't play this in your 3-color decks.
Yes. All right, we got the next tap land in Rule. I did it. Said the right one. The next one is in the Orzhov colors. It's looking like we are having most of our color pairings are represented here, not just 5 of them.
Yep, it's the full set of 10.
Full set of 10. Secluded Courtyard. It enters the battlefield. Choose a creature type. You can add a colorless, and it can also add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type, or activate an ability of the chosen type.
So this can be used for a few things, but I think this is primarily designed to be a ninjutsu land.
Agreed. There's not a lot of other things that this goes super well with, and we are seeing ninjas in every single color, even though they're not heavily supported in each color. There are ninjas there, so if you happen to open one of the better ones in, like, let's say white, I think there was 1 or 2 ninjas, there's definitely 1, maybe 2, then this is fine, but again, you can't be splashing, you can't be doing anything funny. This is probably just unplayable in most decks, and then fine in the ninja deck.
Yeah, unless your splash is enabled by this card.
Yes.
That's the only time you can play it.
If you're splashing just the white ninjas.
Yeah, or just the red samurai, or if there's a blue samurai in the red-white deck, or something like that.
I'm thinking more along the lines of like, we're splashing red removal.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? Then it's like,
Absolutely.
All right. It's going to be kind of a split card. I'm going to put it down as a 1 and then just note in the article that, this will go up. It has playability in a deck.
Yeah, unlike, Roadside Reliquary or Mech Hanger, not every deck is going to have the stuff to make this card work.
Yep. All right. We have the red channel land, tap for red, or you can pay 4, discard it, create 2 1/1 colorless spirit tokens. They gain haste until end of turn. That's kind of cute. And then it costs 1 less, close to irrelevant. A land that makes 2 1/1s seems good. This one is probably just the same as the other ones, like a 3. that's free.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still a little annoyed they've gone back to making spirits that don't fly, but...
Agreed.
You know,
I did notice that earlier, too, and I thought, but fine, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, we have the Is It ETB tapped land, which is fine. Let's go ahead and talk about the Black Channel land, the Abandoned Mire, probably one of the prettiest land arts that we've seen recently. We can discard it for 4 mana, mill 3 cards, then return target creature card from our graveyard to our hand. Okay, great. Late game, you draw a land instead, and you just get the best creature in your graveyard back, and possibly even hit a better one. So this is awesome card advantage.
Yeah, it's the only one of them, I believe, that's kind of situational, right? It does, you do need something in your yard, but it helps fulfill its own condition, so...
Yeah. And you're not pitching your lands until late in the game anyway, so
exactly.
You're going to hit something. And I know everybody's going to be like, that's not card advantage, it's 1 for 1. But look, we're both drawing lands, right? Lands are bricks late in the game and limited, so if you get to remove one of your lands and draw a thing, I think that's kind of card advantage late game and limited. So I know you guys are all going to get mad at me, but...
The more important, I mean, it is late game card advantage or virtual card advantage, but it's also just, if I'm playing your normal 23 spell, 17 land deck, now I've got a 24th spell in my deck.
Yeah.
Like, it's spell density into your deck is what this does.
And it just makes it, they draw a blank, you don't, which is great. It just removes the amount of blanks in your deck, which to me is going to give you the advantage in the late game.
Yeah, it's why these channel lands or modal lands in the past doesn't even so much matter what the effect is. They're always playable because any effect pretty much is better than just another basic land.
Yep. So we've got Is It tapped land, again, gaining life. If you have 2 or 3...
You were so close.
Oh, Simic. It's Simic. We had Is It already. I'm sorry. I'm tired.
I know.
I'm going to bed. Azorius. I almost said Orzhov. God dang it. They all sound so similar. Azorius at ETB tapped. And again, guys, these are pretty good, especially if you have a slower deck. Sometimes a couple of land can make a pretty big difference. And if your deck doesn't mind having your 3 and 4 drop come into play tapped, you can play a couple of these, even if you're only 2 colors. Uncharted Haven, a land. Uncharted Haven enters battlefield tapped. Enters the battlefield, choose a color, add a mana of the chosen color. This seems great.
Yeah, it's a slightly worse Evolving Wilds because it doesn't thin a land out of your deck.
I mean, in very heavy decks, oftentimes I don't want to. Like sometimes with mana intensive decks, you're like almost wanting to lean towards 18. So when you start running Evolving Wilds in there, it kind of like jumbles it up. So I could say that that's almost a wash.
Yeah. I mean, either way, it's a very small effect.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's good or bad, it doesn't really probably change the rating.
Again, this is going to be similar to the dual lands. If you're 2 colors, I don't know that we're often willing to risk the ETB tapped for the, for those few games where you have 1 color of mana and not the other. So these are fine, but always playing this in a 3 color deck and sometimes playing it in a 2 color deck.
Yeah, I'll probably generally play the first one of these in anything but the most aggressive deck.
So I actually kind of like edging this up to a 3, only because, like the other dual lands we were talking about, sometimes you pick them up instead of like a 2 creature, right? Like a rating 2, just because you want to open up the ability to open up a good card in that and splash. If I'm like, let's say, Gruul or whatever. Sometimes if I see a dual land and like a borderline playable that may or may not make the cut, I'll take the dual land if it has black, because often I really love splashing black removal or red removal. So this is similar in that we can pick this up and it enables splashing of any color in the future, which is really sweet.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
So picking this up early does open up some really cool possibilities for you later in the draft. All right. Boros, I got it right. Take it.
It was the last one.
All right, I did it. We got there, guys. So that is the end of our colorless and land section. For those of you guys watching on YouTube, thank you very, very much. Leave us a comment down below. Let us know what you thought of the set review and which cards you thought might be rated better or worse than what we thought. And again, we will be doing an update video 2 weeks after the set comes out to kind of just talk about how these cards have played out, you know, either better or worse than what we expected and why that is. We'll also do kind of a archetype update to give you guys the idea of, you know, which ones are playing out to be the strongest or weakest archetypes in the set. Yanks, thank you so much for joining us.
Anytime.
All right, we'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good night. Be safe.